Let's head to Atlantic Canada. The Liberals have won a majority of seats. That wasn't a surprise, but it wasn't the red wave that the party had hoped for. Despite low poll predictions, the Conservatives overperformed in the Atlantic provinces. So to explain the election results on the East Coast, we are welcoming back Sarah Smelly from the Canadian Press. She is in St. John's this morning. Okay, Sarah, you did a really great job of setting everything up for us yesterday. I'm so curious to know what your reaction was when you watched these results start to roll in. Let's start in Newfoundland, where you were. The Conservatives winning 2 seats there. They held their 1 seat. They flipped Long Range Mountain from the Liberals. What gave the Conservatives momentum there? Why did people go to the Conservatives, and why the flip from the Liberals?
Well, I mean, the Long Range Mountain situation is interesting. The woman who won, the Conservative candidate Carol Anstey, she had almost won that district in the 2021 election. She almost knocked out longtime Liberal MP Goody Hutchings. So it wasn't a big surprise that Carol Anstey won this time around. What is surprising is we're seeing there's a really tight race right now in a district called Terra Nova, the Peninsulas.
Yeah.
So the Liberal candidate there right now is hanging on by 46 votes.
Wow.
There is 1 box left to count. Yeah, it is really something. He's a political rookie. He's a former CBC journalist. What an introduction to politics. So there is 1 box of votes left to count, and we'll see what shakes out there. But certainly, I mean, we did see a surge in support for the Conservative Party, and that in that area particularly, that is a rural Newfoundland area. And so that is home to a lot of fish harvesters, a lot of people who work in the fish plants, as well as a lot of oil and gas workers, whether they work here in Newfoundland and Labrador or they work in Alberta in the sector there. And so, you know, the fish harvesters here have long been upset with the way Ottawa is managing the fishery. And of course, the oil and gas sector is also not impressed with Ottawa, given their, proposed legislation that would force oil and gas companies to really slash their greenhouse gas emissions. So that could be a factor there, what's driving that surge in Conservative support.
Sarah, I just want to go back to the Terra Nova story for just a moment. Now, we were talking this morning here about how counting from Elections Canada, at least in some of the ridings, has paused until 9:30 a.m. Eastern. I'm assuming this is just to give people a break who've been counting through the night. But is that the same case for where you are at as well? Is there a pause on counting before they open that box and count the final amount?
As far as I understand, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so we're going to find out today. And CBC is reporting that box, it contains a lot of votes, like people who were perhaps outside of the province or outside
Special
of the country
ballots.
voting. Yeah. So it's
They might indeed be special for whoever wins.
Yes.
Can we go to Nova Scotia?
Talk about like the example that your vote counts. There you go. Yeah.
I love that lesson. It's true. Listen, let's go to Nova Scotia quickly before we run out of time. The Liberals won 10 seats here, but the Conservatives did pull in 1. Conservative Rick Perkins lost his seat in South Shore St. Margaret's in Nova Scotia in a neck-and-neck race. How did he lose his stronghold in the riding? What were the factors at play?
I think, again, it could have been the fishery. So in that riding in particular, the lobster fishery is king. And there has been longstanding discontent there between the lobster fishers and Ottawa, the decisions made by Ottawa to regulate that fishery. And perhaps those fishers just felt that Rick Perkins was not fighting hard enough for them in the House of Commons. Rick Perkins won that seat in the last election by ousting the former federal fisheries minister. So it's really quite something.
Sarah, I'm so curious, what stood out to you when you watched these results last night?
What stood out to me, to be honest, was listening to all the victory speeches from the successful Liberals. Many of them focused on Donald Trump, and that has been such a prominent message for the Liberals throughout this whole election campaign. They really hung their hat on this idea that they were the party to fight Donald Trump. They had the leader to fight Donald Trump. So we saw that here in St. John's East, and we saw that indeed when Sean Fraser finally won his seat. He was at one time the federal housing minister. He wasn't going to run again, but got a phone call from Mark Carney, who convinced him to run. And it almost seemed like he was going to lose, but he won.
Sarah Smelly from Canadian Press in St. John's for us this morning. Really appreciated your context as we were walking into voting day and then the results as well. Thanks, Sarah. Always good to have you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too.
If you like that video, make sure to subscribe to the Your Morning YouTube feed, where you can find all kinds of new content posted every weekday morning.